right on 11/11, I'm opening this portal of exploration of a very potent topic that my friend Paul Edge is truly an expert and a deep enthusiast, I would say, on this topic. And we have met through realizing we have one mutual hero in the history, one of them. And it's a philosopher from ancient times, Hypatia. And that's how we first connected, start talking about divine feminine wisdom and Hypatia and philosophy. And here we are in this portal, bringing you a conversation about frequency in many different dimensions of that conversation. So Paul, I'm so happy to be here with you. How are
Happy
you?
to be here with you, Katerina.
And all of those records that you are surrounded by, you just mentioned briefly 22 of them. So you are an incredible musical artist as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
It kind of provides the foundation for everything.
music provides the foundation for everything.
Yeah. So when I was traveling the world, DJing for many years, and there just came a point where I asked the question, which maybe sent me down the rabbit hole, certainly, of why, when I do this with the vary speed, do I get a completely different reaction on my dance floor? And that led to the science of acoustic genomics and nucleacoustic genomics, which has basically absorbed my life for the last 19 years. And now, obviously, the next iteration is Pluroma, which is a collective, an autopoetic collective, and an institution of some brilliant people who have had different pathways through institutional science, through business, through spirituality, through art, and we've all coalesced under this unifying banner to present a new modality to the world of healing and abundance and prosperity. And I don't believe humans are meant to struggle. So so the next evolution is we move into clinical testing to validate these theories. So we've got four components: fundamentally nutrition. How does nutrition and frequency impact the genome? And then that is surrounded by the foundation, which is a scientific understanding of water.
We dove right into the depths. That is who you are. You are deeper than deep. And also, I want to seed these that Paul, when I met you, you have this very elf energy, elf, royal, noble elf vibration.
Thank you.
Can we touch on that before we go into the incredible mechanics of frequency and why it's so important for us to really understand and embody it? I'd love to bring out your mystical essence.
Oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. So I was raised in Ireland. I was born in London, but raised in Ireland. So I've always classified myself as Celtic, as you can see from my necklaces, the triple goddess, even the logo for Pluroma is the Trinity band. And Tolkien, as I read the original Lord of the Rings and then watched it being transferred into the big screen, and it obsessed me for many years. There was a certain refined elegance about the elves and a wisdom that they held. And I then bought the Similarium, which was the precursor to Lord of the Rings, where it details the history. And it reminded me a lot of what I was taught, not as myth, but as actually Irish history at school, the Tuatha De Danann and Cuchulainn and everything else. So, I say to people all the time, back in the 90s, when we started to dress down, it was a reaction to being forced to dress up. Well, now dressing down has become so commonplace. what is the rebellious statement to that? And the Celts and in particular the portrayal of the elves embodies that refined elegance. So there you go. Yeah.
Refined elegance. I have such affinity for that.
Right,
And
well, you're always refined and you're always elegant, Katerina.
so I connect to to the lineage of the elves.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And what do the elves represent? It's a deep understanding of the magic of nature and
Mm,
what we can truly do with this divine being we're living on if we take the time to listen and learn and pass that wisdom down through the ages. And so, that's the elven connection. It's just I don't like being the same as everybody else. It's really quite simple.
hmm. Yes, that the love of the web of life
Mm,
and the sacredness that we interact with web of life in a very sacred way.
mm,
Mm,
absolutely.
yes, Paul. So how would you describe if you had to describe frequency in terms of defining it, what that really is? Where would you begin?
Uh, well, frequency is everything. So even on a subatomic level, it's all frequency. So how would I describe it? I would say frequency is everything, literally everything. However, I don't do, music relaxes, but it doesn't heal. And that's a controversial statement, and many people don't like me making that statement. However, I've got years of research that can prove that statement. And there's nothing wrong with relaxation. I'm a master Ericksonian hypnotist. I understand the importance of relaxation in a therapeutic process. However, for me, frequency, if you look at if we take a polysaccharide, it's a highly complex frequency communication device that interacts specifically with specific cells, proteins, polymer proteins, lipids, peptides, everything in the body. So for me, frequency is highly specific. I go down to 20 decimal points in my frequency research. There was a study that came out, and this might help your listeners understand this. There was a study came out about a year ago that basically kind of fundamentally proves that everybody's heartbeat is as unique as their fingerprint.
I love that.
So
So
when the nurse takes your pulse and goes, oh, 82 beats per minute, maybe 10 people in the room also are 82 beats per minute. That's actually incorrect. It's 82 point something that the human can't measure just by doing that, basically. So that's where I went. I went down. I'm like, okay, we've got 37.2 or 32.7 trillion cells. That means there are probably 32.7 trillion different frequencies that now is it as complex as that? No. And please understand, I remember someone saying to me, they were it was a famous musician, and his father was a famous musician, and they asked him in an interview, they said, what's it like sitting on the shoulders of your father? And he said, well, I can see so much further from up here.
mm,
And I'm sitting on the shoulders of Tesla, of Reif, of Steinmetz, of so many people. This is not, taught with us. This is, we've got all the information we need. It's just that we are in an age where we can do so much more with the information.
yes, that leads me to my next question of what are the possibilities that you see because we have so much more information, we have the ability to do so much more with information, right? What are the possibilities that you see when we really understand the power of our heartbeat, of Schumann resonance, of being vibrational beings? What is possible for us in terms of really shifting the vibratory rate of humanity?
Well, according to the Pluroma, it's infinite possibility
Yes.
and infinite potential. We are surrounded by distortion. We know this. There's studies done where in Germany, for example, there was a village where they actually had records of how far the church bell could be heard of from the 1890s. And they replicated the experiment. And in the 1890s, the church bell could be heard 6 miles away. In the 1990s, the church bell could be heard 250 feet away. That's how much distortion we are surrounded by every single day. So it's no wonder we have dis-ease. And there is, he's just left actually, he spent 3 days with me, actually took him to meet Andrew as well. There's a guy who's part of the Pluroma team who's focused his life on water. And what we're starting to understand is that water likes to have a relationship.
Mm.
And it's not judgmental in what it has a relationship with. So guess what? You're arguably 98.9% water. If you're surrounded by distortion 24/7, guess what water's going to have the relationship with?
Mm-hmm.
Distortion. And that, for the human, is dis-ease. And that's exactly what dis-ease is. There is something in your body that is causing this wonderful thing that we ignore. It's disruption in the body. And so our science is not anti-pharmaceuticals. It's not anti-allopathic medicine. It is basically a unifying aspect. We can apply some of the techniques that we can prove and discover to make drugs safer, for an example. And what there is a tendency in our community to want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and making a statement, pharma is bad. I disagree with that. I think that I've got a client, he's just going onto our protocol. He's just had a stroke. And I said to him, look, if you'd have called me whilst you were on the ground going, Paul, do you have a frequency to fix me? My advice would be get straight to the bloody hospital and let the doctors do their job.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, the whole purpose of Pluroma is it's inclusive rather than exclusive. We're not into segregation. We're not into separation. We're not into rifts. Our responsibility is to understand the frequential aspect, even of medicine, and use this knowledge to make medicine safer if necessary. So the potentiality is a healthier human race, and more importantly, a healthier human race that they can do themselves.
Yes. 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 Sovereign souls.
Yes, that's a beautiful term for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I first came to America, I remember this absolutely shocked me because I grew up with the national healthcare. I know some people call it socialized medicine. It isn't. Every human being in England pays money to the healthcare, and it's very, very good. And I took a friend who was organizing the tour, had a 1.5-year-old baby, our son, who got sick. I said, oh, we'll just go to the doctor. I went to the doctor and they presented me with a $500 bill. And I'm just like, this is a child. What's wrong with you? Why are you making me pay you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point here is, and you know, everyone's going, oh, no, you can't disrupt this. You can't disrupt that. Well, we can actually, and we are going to. Healthcare is not a privilege. It's a right. And if we can empower humans to understand the importance of nutrition, the importance of sleeping in frequency fields that they control, the understanding that what occurs in your body normally starts 9 months earlier, and we have developed a way to identify that. Now people can still use allopathic medicine for what allopathic medicine is good at, which is critical care. And allopathic medicine admits this. We're great for 5%. Mm-hmm. But what about the other 95%? Well, that's our responsibility. We need to take control. We need to empower ourselves and stop being victims. That's my opinion. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. I deeply, deeply resonate with this. We empower ourselves when we realize the power of our frequency,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
if we minimize the distortion around, if we minimize the distortion, we come back, we focus on harmony. So what are the practical ways, Paul, that anybody who listens to this incredible conversation can say, I choose to empower myself vibrationally from today on? What would be the first step for them to come to a deeper vibrational harmony?
The simplest way is change your water.
Change your water. I drink spring water from the spring that is delivered to me in these crystal jars. So I drink alive water.
Alive
What
water.
you mean? Is that what you mean? Change your water quality?
There is a company called Natural Action.
Natural action.
Yeah, they're based in Ohio. They have developed very affordable, and I mean ridiculously affordable, devices that ionize your water and return it to mature water from springs.
Ionize your water.
And they have over. It was started by a nuclear engineer, actually, and that's the simplest solution: is change your water. Reverse osmosis, for example, when people don't like hearing this, is dead water. And actually, the structures in reverse osmosis are identical to the structures of, I think it's kidney disease in the blood.
Wow. So changing.
So you know, we are moving back into this is very simple stuff. We've just made it incredibly complicated. I remember all my scientist friends were like, "Oh, Paul, water is just H2O, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen." And I would say, well, explain the 80 scientific anomalies that you lot can't explain. And of course, they were like, no. So I actually asked the question. I have this weird technique, which is very effective. I go to the beach and I write a question in the sand. The water comes in, takes it out, and then a couple of days later, in my dreams, I'll receive an answer that makes sense. Most of my scientific discoveries have been done that way. And I actually said, what are you, water? A very simple question. And the answer that came back was the 2 hydrogen atoms create a field of infinite possibility represented by the 0.
Wow.
Guess what? A year ago, a research group in Miami came to the same conclusion. This is at Miami University, or the University of Florida. One. I have so many bloody universities everywhere. And so what we have done as a species is we have disconnected from nature. And the most critical element we have disconnected from is water. And if your water, you know, what is being discovered about water is I mean, the Gnostics say all liquid on the planet is the tears of Sophia. I can confidently say that water is a divine being with an intelligence that we have no way of understanding. It's just forget AI. AI is like a child compared to where water is when it comes to wisdom. But it's very non-judgmental, as most of nature is. You know, Andrew always says, if you think the universe cares about what you are thinking, just forget that concept. You're not that important. And it's something Andrew says, and I always burst out laughing because I'm like, yes, well, if we can move away from personalization of nature and actually realize that what we are living on is just an incredibly complex system, but we happen just to be living on it. It really doesn't care about us. And if we don't stop hurting it, we'll find out that it doesn't care about us. God help us when that decision is made, because all the weapons in the world will not stop Mother Nature if she decides, you know what, I kind of need to cleanse myself. oh gosh, oh golly, here we go, tidal waves and everything else. I don't think we're there, just so you know that. But it is really important that humans reevaluate, in my opinion, reevaluate that relationship. One of the ways you can do it, Jack Kruse provides a really good protocol. He's a neuroscientist. See the sunrise every morning in bare feet, stood on earth. Reverse your eating habits. So there's an Irish saying, eat like a king in the morning, a prince at lunchtime, and a pauper in the evening. Start to re-engage the rhythm of nature, because your first cell is called the clock gene, believe it or not. And that's, you know, that's really simple. Get out of bed and watch the sunrise with your feet on the ground. Eat locally. The frequencies carried by an orange grown in Florida have got absolutely nothing to do with the frequencies in California. So eat local. These are really simple steps. And when you commit to the process, when you commit to the lifestyle, don't give it a week. I can tell you the healing process is 9 months. I can give you study after study after study that comes to, it always has this 9-month process involved. Well, that's gestation. Guess what? Yes, we're dealing with a feminine planet. We're dealing with a feminine body, believe it or not. Even males. Sorry, males. Yeah, I know you don't like this, but so give the gestatory period. Give it a 9-month try. Say, okay, okay. I'm going to listen to that long-haired guy, and I'm going to change my water. I'm going to get up every morning at 6 o'clock, and I'm going to stop eating after the sun sets. I can't guarantee anything. I promise that within about 4 months, you're going to notice what's going on in your toroidal field changing. And the minute that changes, that's when you stop attracting all this negative stuff. It's cheap, it's free, and it's so powerful.
I love the suggestions that you offered are so practical, and they all return us back to the body, to the present moment, to the earth, to the elements. I noticed a big uh, change in my relationship with water when I began to seek a conscious contact with the spirit of the water.
Mm.
And the way I felt guided to do it is through the medium of a ritual of
Mhm.
bringing the roses that I grow on my patio. And when they are ready, when they reach their ripeness, I ask the rose, is, are you open to be offered to the spirit of the ocean? So the moment I start engaging with the elements, with the plants, with beings in a very, very intentional, conscious way, there's a whole new expansion of harmony in my life.
Mm.
To bring flowers to the spirit of the water and to bow down and in this deep reverence, I immediately noticed my relationship with the spirit of the water deepened.
Yeah, one of the things that Jonathan, you can go to the Pluroma website and look at Jonathan. He's identified is that there are actually 4 ages of water. And there's young water, which is completely, it's like a child. It just wants to absorb information. Then there's mature water, which is like adolescence. And then there's old age water. And then, it's the cycle. And you can see old age water in rivers that is stagnant. That's old age. It represents us, actually. And so with water, again, this is something that we're starting to explore really, really closely. Is what is the relationship aspect that we can enter into with water, not from a woo-woo perspective, but actually from a demonstrable scientific perspective. And the process of offering nature back to the water is literally, you are engaging in that process. You're creating a relationship. You would call it spirit. I don't care what words you use, but what you appear to be doing is developing a relationship with water. And you can test this. Emoto was flawed. His experiments were not very good, but some of his experiments were really, really valid. And, you know, water will absorb whatever information you give it. So if you want to shout at water, it'll absorb it. If you want to then drink that water, guess what? You're drinking anger.
Oh, I am just receiving so much from everything you share, Paul. It's such a gift to have this level of conversation and then to share it with others.
Thank you. I agree.
More, yeah, so more sovereign souls will practice these tools. I love the angle that we just turned about um, how you can program the water, right? You
Mhm.
program the water with healing frequencies.
Yeah, we're still looking at that. There's a lot of false claims made. Understand that water that supposedly carries healing frequencies in a bottle there's a whole supply chain altering those frequencies.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of our devices that we're currently developing, again, it's all about empowerment of the human.
That's right. Hmm.
You shouldn't need to spend vast quantities of money to buy bottled water when, if you have the right system and the right frequency device, you can do it yourself. And long term, we are building a database. So it's on blockchain of every frequency that we can identify and its biological impact on the body. And so, you know, I never caught COVID. Why? Because I played myself a specific frequency that was shown scientifically to destroy COVID. I listen to it every single night, and so does many of my friends, and no one I know caught COVID.
Yeah, me neither.
Right. And so this is the point. That, you know, we're taught that we need to go outside of ourselves. We
Hmm.
need to go here, we need to go here. But there's and you know, because I probably mentioned this, there's a wonderful line in the Apocrypha of John, which is the Gnostic text, where it states the luminescent child will rise up and seize its power. This is really what this is all about. Is people don't realize this, but in America, you have a constitutional right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Sickness violates that constitutional right. So from us, it's like, okay, what can my mum and dad do to make their lives better? What can your friends do to make their lives better? That does not mean we're going to eradicate disease. That's not going to happen. It really isn't. There are so many bugs and things out in nature that were, you know, nasty things, and the body, and we don't know enough about the body. I mean, science has only just discovered in polymer proteins that there are rivulets which contain quantum fields. And we have trillions of those all over our body. So human beings are quantum communication devices. We don't understand that. Of course we don't. But at least we can go, okay, we're quantum communication devices. How can we take that little bit of knowledge, that 0.001%, and then deliver it so that people realize that they're quantum communication devices and realize the power of what they have here and in their toroidal field, and start taking positive steps to health. You know, in my world of Ericksonian, there's a law called the law of accumulated effect. And the best way to describe it is, you've had a party, you've got all your friends, they've all gone home, and you walk into the kitchen and a bomb's hit it. I'm sure we've all been there. I know I have. And the tendency is, oh, I'll go to bed and do it in the morning. Well, the law of accumulated effect will say, no, wash a fork. Because, oh, I've done one, I'll do another now. And before you know it, it's all done. I find the challenge with a lot of these alternative things is they expect total commitment right at the start. and it's not realistic. People have lives to lead. So what is the simplest first step? And that first step turns into a second step. And I think that's how we empower ourselves, because basically we're learning how to walk.
So helpful. I really appreciate you sharing that, Paul. I'm curious, the number one misconception that you see being thrown around about high frequency or raising your vibration in our spiritual community. There's so much conversation about frequency, and I'm curious to hear about what are the number one misconception or a myth that you see that you'd like to just address.
That line, well, the number one myth is that going to a sound healing event and lying on your back for an hour and thinking you're healed is a myth. You're not. The whole conversation about raising your vibration, if we look at the Buddhist jhanas, the Noble Eightfold Path, and anybody can check this, they can go to Wikipedia and see it. You have the 8 steps to enlightenment, and they've done studies on the monks as they go through the jhanas. And what they notice is that their heartbeat slows down the deeper they so one, their heartbeat is at a certain specific rhythm, and by 8 it's down between 20 and 40 beats per minute. Well, guess what? That's a frequency of 1.33 hertz or thereabouts. No, it's probably less than that. It's probably 79.8 beats per minute is 1.33 hertz. So it'll be half of that. So actually, and what science is starting to recognize now, they call it brown noise. And you refer to the Schumann resonances, which tend to be, there's 10 of them, not one, and they're all under 60 hertz, which is also lower vibration. Is that in order to actually achieve enlightenment, you don't raise your frequency, you lower it. And if you want to argue with me, great. But now you then have to argue with the Native Americans, then you have to argue with the Buddhists, then you have to argue with everybody else as well. Go for it. I don't care. The reality is, every practice we see, from the shaman in Peru to the kahunas in Hawaii to the Buddhists, do not have people running around in an alpha state. They have them in a delta state. That's a low vibration.
Yeah, and is gamma state also a lower state, right?
Yeah, so it's delta, beta, alpha, gamma. Gamma is a higher frequency. Now, see, this is where, in my opinion, the spiritual community gets it wrong. Is they basically equated enlightenment with being like light beings. So logically, yes, there are very high frequencies involved with light. And we know from many of the scientists' work that light, the color spectrum, has profound healing effects on the body. We know that. So it's not that raising your vibration is incorrect. It's just that if you don't have a fundamental frequency at the bottom, you've got no harmonic. And that's when problems occur. And normally, as an example of this, I would say, and I'll say this to your listeners, have you ever been to the dentist? Can you imagine right now that drill going right through your tooth?
Oh,
Right. That's the correct response. But guess what? That's a really high frequency. However, if you're in a hypnotic state, i.e. you're in a low frequency, you don't need the painkillers, and the drill doesn't bother you. That's the harmonic.
wow, so illuminating. So illuminating. I love that. Quantum communication devices, here we are. Well, and I really would love to take a few minutes for us to, it's a big topic, and maybe we can have another conversation dedicated specifically to Pluroma. But our mutual love for the goddess Sophia and everything that lineage represents and Pluroma. Would you give us a delicious summary, if possible, why Sophia frequencies, why we are returning to sacred feminine, that Sophia represents?
So, you know, I mean, the whole fall of Sophia, it's represented in virtually every ancient religion. The Taras are just an expression of Sophia. Sarasvati is an expression of Sophia. Mother Mary is an expression of Sophia. It's this, but there's a line in the Gnostic text that basically says the epinoia was hidden in the anthropos so that the archons could not find her. And the epinoia is imagination and creativity, and it's part of what they would refer to as the divine Sophia. So in my world, I equate that to the unconscious mind, which I believe is feminine, and the conscious mind is masculine. There's no good or bad. I mean, the ego is a bit of a problem in many respects, but our connection to nature is through creativity and inspiration and imagination. I've got a tree in my new house. It's a birch tree. It must be 60 years old. And you will see it when you come to the property, to our event. You sit in the middle of it, and it's like being cradled. And the energy is just remarkable, and you feel like a baby. That's what, at what point do we as beings lose our sense of wonder? That childlike gift that we have, well, you will know from the Gene Keys, and my work says it's age 8. And that's the one thing that nature can do every single time. If you really pay attention to what you are looking at, and you can, if you are not gobsmacked, then you're not paying attention or you're dead, basically. It's one of the two. And so it's the one thing we have that I've seen your photos from Peru, Machu Picchu, and everything else. Even looking at those photographs, it's awestruck. It's just like, holy, so I won't swear, but holy F, look at that. How does that happen? And that's the power of Sophia, is that she through her expression in this planet that we live on, which is her, has the ability to, even to the most cynical human being, to remind them what it's like to be a child and be completely in awe of everything. That's when creation happens.
Your words are poetry, Paul, and I have such deep resonance with everything you shared, of course, but the last sentence, it's exactly it. You know, my word for this year is to walk through this year with ever-present sense of awe. You know,
Mm.
every day, my main aim, cultivate awe. And
And
it's, yeah, right?
you can wonder in wonder.
You can wonder and wonder. Oh, that's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I love how to have that individual contact. You know, I often refer to Sophia as Divine Mother or Cosmic Mother. And what always just inspires me, ins oh, let's use that word, inspires me, this realization that no matter how transcendental divine cosmic spirit is, the Divine Mother, she is here to have that individual contact with each of
Absolutely.
her expression, right?
Absolutely.
I
Right.
often see a billion eyes. Each eye of divinity is in each of my cells. And when I talk to Sophia, I was like, you are such a benevolent being that we are literally made out of your body, and you're ever present and omnipresent, and you communicate to us. Wow, what a phenomenal experience to be embedded in the divinity.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. I've got a really good mum, and I've spent my life surrounded by really powerful women. Whether that's intentional or not, it just happens to be the fact. But going back to my mum, it does not matter where I am in the world. she is always there for me.
Mm.
She knows if I'm having a bad day, if things aren't going quite the way I want them to, and and I transfer that to the planet. And it's nice to know that no matter what we do, we can walk out into nature and be comforted as a child. I wouldn't recommend doing that in a pride of lions. However, it's that, we live in very scary times. And people say, oh, well, we can manifest a new reality. No, you can't actually, but we can change ourselves so that the frequency on the planet gives us a new reality in which we can move forward as a race or as a species rather than a bunch of individuals. And when people get scared, it's because they don't think there's anything out there that can protect them. They've forgotten the most critical element that is taught in the Gnostic texts. We have a paradigm sociologically. We have good, we have evil, and man's caught in the middle. That's kind of a dualistic problem. Whereas the Gnostics argue, no, you have Sophia, you have her child, humanity, and everything else is in the middle.
Yes.
So in order to get through, we've just got to kind of go around and touch. And I've had some, pretty scary times in my life. And as I look back, no matter what my brain was telling me was going on, here I am in a beautiful California talking to a beautiful host about beautiful things. Meanwhile, I thought the world was going to end in 2012. And I didn't do anything to do this. You see, that's the point. When we get out of our own way, we allow what the universe or nature or whatever, however you want to express it. There's so many words that we use. I just call it Sophia, to protect us. And if every human being could realize they are protected.
Such deep truth, Paul. Such deep truth. I'm curious about your perspective on, that evolutionary leap of consciousness that happens in human where we realize there is such a thing as the will of the whole or the will
Yeah.
of the Sophia. And it's a huge step, new orientation of everything that is valuable, important, or what really begins to guide our life. From your perspective and your experience, how do you read the will of the whole and what's happening right now in this unfolding, or the will of the Sophia? What is the higher aspiration that we can attune to together when we get out of the way?
Yeah, well, from my perspective, and this is purely my perspective, I have one rule that I live by, which is there is only one sin, and that's to hurt another. It's a very simple motto for life. Imagine if every human being, before they took action, asked, who's this going to hurt? And we start with the most intelligent being on the planet, which is the dolphin. I personally believe that every human being on the planet, until we address how we treat the dolphins and the whales, I think COVID was time out. COVID was the dolphins going, all right, we've had enough of this. Go to your rooms and think about it. And yeah, I'll give you something I just found out, which is because people, oh, dolphins, what about dolphins? Oh, here he goes again talking about dolphins. Well, it's kind of important because dolphins communicate. For years, we thought dolphins use sonar to travel around the seabed. What it now turns out is dolphins use sonar to create holographic images of what they see.
Oh.
This is a peer-reviewed paper. Even more staggering is dolphins can then take those images and store them somewhere, we don't know where, and transmit those images to every dolphin on the planet simultaneously in literally a nanosecond.
Whoa.
So what dolphins are doing are transmitting holographic images. And how do they create these images? Using frequency. And what do we do as humans? We allow them to get hoarded into a baseball. And if you haven't seen, what is it, that horrible film, hundreds of dolphins beaten to death and the sea turns blood red. Happens every single year. Why? Because they have the audacity to eat tuna.
Oh.
So how we do one thing is how we do everything. I firmly believe that. So what is the hill? I would ask your audience this as well, and maybe it will create some communication between them. What's the hill you're prepared to die on? What is the thing? Not that you say you have no control over, because you have control over everything, because you only have control over yourself. You cannot control anybody else. Forget that concept. It's in neurolinguistic programming. It's called I can't remember right now. So what's the hill? What's the hill you're prepared to die on? What is the thing that you can decide right now that you're going to make it your purpose? For me, it's dolphins. For me, it's human health. I'm prepared to die on that hill.
Mm.
Nothing will move me away from it. Not good times, not bad times. That's it. I made that decision many, many years ago. You don't have to do what I do, but perhaps you could go, okay, well, I'm going to pick up paper every day off the planet. And the more we do this collectively, the more the system adjusts. Oh, we have a compassionate system. There's huge confusion between empathy and compassion. Lots of people like to claim their I've got empathy for those people. But empathy is really compassion without action.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's a choice that everybody can make. I on New Year's Eve, when I was with you at Andrews and DJing, that was when I activated my decision to be compassionate rather than empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
There's a wonderful story. He's got a great book out called Meditation Saved My Life. It's a Buddhist monk. You can get it on Amazon. I would highly recommend everybody read this book. And he was in a Chinese labor camp for nearly 20 years. And he was being interviewed. And he was beaten, close friends with the Dalai Lama. He was beaten, tortured, and everything. And the interviewer said, oh my gosh, all those beatings, all those tortures, did you ever feel you were in danger? And he responded, yes. Once or twice, I almost lost compassion for the guards.
Wow. Yeah. Just one sentence tells me so much about his consciousness.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
And that does not mean you roll over and let people beat you up. Nature doesn't work that way. We've got this whole, I'm not saying violence is good, it's not. But you if you're going to be compassionate, that doesn't mean you just go, oh, I'm going to let everybody walk all over me. No, that's not compassion. That's self-abuse, actually. So, maybe you said, what's the one thing? Maybe people can decide to become compassionate rather than empathetic.
So powerful. And I feel my toroidal field is just enriched with luminosity of the wisdom that you brought, dear Paul. I
Well,
am
thank you. I appreciate that.
so grateful. I'm gonna hold an intention to have these conversations with Paul video series. We are going to just focus on one topic at a time because this hour went by so fast. I took 4 pages of notes
Oh, wow.
while I'm listening to this incredible knowledge and embodied wisdom that you shared. How can people find you to support the foundation that you are leading and cultivating Pluroma?
The website is thepluroma.io.
Mhm.
There's some very beautiful people in the team, and it lays out our mission and what we how we intend to move forward. We will be having very, very special monthly events here to generate a new way of being, and not from like, oh, we're going to tell you what to do. We're going to present information every month from some very brilliant people, and allow people to go, huh, that makes sense. You see, I always say the same. This is why I go to Andrews, and I've been to Andrews, and I say this to Andrew as well. I don't come here for 6 hours every night for any other purpose than to pick up one idea.
Yes.
I do courses for the very same reason. I've spent 20,000 hours studying Erickson. Theoretically, I know everything about Erickson's work, except that I don't. And so that's the point, is if you take one, just what, disregard 59 minutes and 30 seconds of this if you want. But if there's one thing that resonates with you, implement it.
Mm. Mm. Mhm. Implemented, yes. Thank you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of my community, that I am just so excited for them to receive the gift of this transmission, and for them to also receive the show notes and the link to the website. And I'm here to just say, let's do this again, Paul.
Oh, I'd love to. And what I'd like to do, if you're up for it, one of those chats, let's bring Jonathan in, because when it comes to water,
Yes.
he will blow your mind.
Woo! We're gonna have an entire segment on the water.
Yes, yeah.
Love it.
We did a talk together, and loads of people reached out, and they were just like, I need a year to assess this information. But the beauty of this is, what we are discovering is that water is a relationship orientated being.
Yes.
That kind of redefines everything.
Ah, Paul, and how interesting that is. I arrived at there through direct experience in a very shamanic way, and
Mhm.
it's so validating to hear it, to say, we are when we follow our intuitive knowledge, it guides us to this truth, and then you hear it as a confirmation, and it's just wow. I feel my devotion to have to deepen my relationship with water just 10x'd.
Yeah, and that's kind of for Pluroma moving forward. This water becomes the foundation. I've always been obsessed with water, and I've probably geeked out. But however, what the science is now starting to show, for example, the human cell. Every human cell has 4 layers of structured water. We didn't know this 5 years ago. Science is beginning to validate what people like me have been saying for many years. It's not that science is slow or anything else. It's just that the information I receive comes when I'm in a trance DJ, or when I'm in a trance sleeping. I can't explain it, just like Tesla couldn't explain where, as he said, I don't know where it comes from. I just get this information and I follow up on it. However, it's really important for humanity that science validates it. See, this is where we're back to, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's work together, because together we are a force.
Yes.
Isolated, and the one thing, I actually met with a pharmaceutical company, and they were asking me about these theories. He was retired, but I said, look, it's really quite simple. What if we can make your drug safer? And he's just like, okay, we're in agreement. We've got something we can. So let's stop all this division.
Yes.
Let's work together as a species, because we are a very, very powerful divine we are created from the blueprint of Sophia. You can disagree or agree with me. If you want to disagree with me, go and read the Apocrypha of John in the Nag Hammadi texts. So we have this incredible power that we abuse. We do. And you know, I say this to people, man is capable of the most incredible beauty, breathtaking. Listen to a piece of music that makes you cry. That's one side of our power. But we're also likewise incredible of the most evil, heinous stuff known to man. Our job, your listener's job, is to get people to understand that. Because when humans finally get it, that, hey, we're responsible for all the bad shit as well as all the good shit. Why don't we just focus on the good stuff? And Mother Nature will remind you every single time when you're focusing on that stuff.
Oh, deep, deep truth. Thank you, Paul.
Thank
And
you, Katerina. This has been an absolute pleasure. I've been looking forward to it for a
oh,
while.
yes, I'm so excited to share this. And on this note, I'm gonna end this wonderful recording, and then we're gonna take a picture together
Oh
for.
God. Okay.
Thank you so much for everybody who's gonna watch this and listen to this, and be blessed. Until next.